Hi, everyone. I'm Heather, and thank you for joining us for another Homeschool Live brought to you by the Old Schoolhouse. Today, we will be hearing from the CEO of Praxis, Cameron Sorsby. Please share this video with your friends, post it in any homeschooling groups that you're in, and as always, please comment or ask Cameron any questions that you might have about Praxis. You may remember a few weeks ago, we heard from Mitchell from the company, and now we are going to hear from Cameron. I'm so excited to introduce him to you. Like I mentioned earlier, he's the CEO of Praxis. He's also a strong advocate for self-directed career building. He's an avid golfer, and he enjoys living in Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining me today, Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Heather.
So I would love if you could just get right into it and share with us about your involvement with Praxis and what Praxis is.
Sure. So Praxis, it's a 1-year business apprenticeship program, and it's really designed to be an alternative to the traditional college path. So we work with, ambitious, hardworking young people, have really high character, and normally the types of young people who, do really well in school are, kind of pushed into that typical college path. But more than anything, what they want is to launch, successful fulfilling careers for themselves. So at Praxis, we put them through a 6-month professional development boot camp where we're teaching them like about the modern day career landscape, and then they're actually developing professional skills through experience and project-based curriculum. And then after that 6 months, we place them into full-time entry-level positions at growing small businesses, tech startups, and just like really high quality companies to get your career started. So our graduates, they finish the program after 12 months. They have, legitimate high quality work experience under their belt. They've gained clarity on what kinds of longer term career paths they're interested in pursuing. And then they also have this long term community and network, with our alumni, with speakers we bring in, with the companies that we partner with, that kind of makes up like a long-term professional network for them. So we don't want to only support our participants through the 12 months of the program, but we want to provide that kind of long-term value and kind of like an ongoing professional network. So it's like, hey, like in 3 years after the program, when you're looking for that next great professional opportunity, or maybe you're thinking about starting your own business or something, you have people that can help you do what you want to do in the future.
Wow. So I love this because you think about students, they're graduating high school and then they go to college. And then before they can really get to the career they want, they might have to do an alternate career just to pay off their student loans to get to that
Right.
point. So this completely eliminates all of that. So does this happen right after high school? Are those the type of students that you're looking for?
Yeah, most about 75% of our participants, they do Praxis either right after high school or a few years out of high school. So a lot of our homeschool participants, we have about a third of our graduates historically were homeschooled. They'll
Wow.
they'll do it right after high school, or maybe they decide to take a personal gap year, and then instead of going into like the 4-year college timeline, they'll do Praxis as a way to get their career started. And then we also find a lot of young people who, especially like maybe they were pushed to college after high school and they realize after a year or maybe two, hey, I think I'm ready to just get my life started. I don't want to jump through the typical like academic hoops of school anymore. This can be a great option for them as well. And then a smaller percentage of our participants are using the program almost like a career transition program. Maybe they've started their careers, but they haven't quite figured out that longer term career path, and then they'll use Praxis for that. But yeah, 75-80% of our participants, they're doing Praxis between 6 months to 2 years after high school.
Okay. So, is there a certain career goal that you would say most of your students are attaining to achieve, or do you have a wide variety available through Praxis?
Yeah, so I would say in general, our participants coming in the program, they don't know exactly what they want to do. They're not on the path where it's like, oh, I know I want to go to I know I want to become a lawyer or doctor, therefore I'm going to law school or medical school. They're coming to
Right.
do Praxis to help them figure out what would be a really good fit for them. But in general, we kind of work within like the broader business world, a little bit more entrepreneurial. So we work with a lot of tech startups, we work with a lot of growing small businesses. It matters much less about the specific industries that these companies are in. It's more that they offer like a really great learning environment to get your career started. And then most of our participants, they're starting in, business roles at these companies. So less technical, like you don't have to be interested in software development or coding to do Praxis. A lot of our participants are starting in marketing or sales or, business operations. I think for anyone that has like a general curiosity about the business world, maybe they see themselves as, hey, maybe one day in the future I could see myself starting my own business, or you just like the idea of like working for interesting companies, but you don't know exactly how your personal interests, kind of align with different skills you can develop and different roles you can go into. That's the kind of person that Praxis is probably most useful for, because we do focus on the career discovery element and everything, rather than, kind of how college does it, where it's like, oh, you pick a major and somehow that major is supposed to be tied to what you do for the next 20 years of your career and stuff.
Right. So really a student can come in, have no idea what they're interested in, and they'll receive the training. Is that what you're saying? So if possible, marketing is where they're going to end up going for their first job with the placement through you, they would receive training from you, or do they receive training from the first company that you connect them with?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. So the first 6 months, that's our boot camp. And so you're going through a pretty, intensive project-based curriculum, and you're learning different skills through that boot camp. And we're also big on like, we don't want to pigeonhole you into just one thing. You're going to get a broad like education and various business skills early on. And then each month that goes by in the boot camp, you start to specialize on what you're most interested in. And then, of course, like we're really big on, learning through experience. Don't treat education and your like career development as two separate stages in your life. So of course, a lot of the learning takes place like once you're on the job, that you get halfway through the program. And then as you're on the job in the first 6 months, you're still attending workshops, you have advisors that you can do coaching sessions with, and things like that.
I love that. Now, you had mentioned that you've seen a lot of homeschoolers come through your program. How specifically can Praxis help homeschooling families?
Yeah, I think homeschool families, naturally are a really good fit to kind of break the mold of the typical education system. You're already, doing things differently than what most people are doing in K through 12, your K through 12 education experience. And I think Praxis fits really naturally like that. I would say, over a third of our, graduates were homeschooled, like I mentioned earlier. And why they've made such a great fit for Praxis is because in order to be successful doing something like Praxis, you have to have a stronger sense of maturity and like be a little bit more self-directed, self accountable. And you just have to be ready to get your life started. And what we found, and as you guys know, like homeschoolers tend to be more prepared to get their like adult lives started earlier, because they've been on kind of like an accelerated educational experience so far. So I think for, some homeschoolers, like they really like that academic experience. And, if you're passionate, you want that college experience, great. But for those who, got probably more of that than their peers did K through 12. And if you're in the mindset of like, I'm eager to get started now, I have ambition to like get my career and life started more directly, then that's kind of who we're looking for. And I think that's who makes a really good fit for Praxis. So I think, in terms of alternatives to college, like we've kind of have always had homeschoolers in mind from the beginning of the program.
Well, Deborah is agreeing with you. She says, I love that there is no separation between education and career. Sounds like a seamless transition.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of, misconceptions lie about education. School K through 12, it's like, go to this school building and stay here for 8 hours and go from class to class, topic to topic. And homeschooling allows you to be much more exploratory, and that's kind of what we're trying to apply to. Hey, we're not here to tell you like we're going to help you figure out your dream career path for the next 30 years. We're here to help you get started in the right direction and to gain context and actual valuable skills to get started there.
And I feel like that so many people, they might go through college and then they leave the career that they studied for because they find their dream. And it's so great that this gives people the opportunity to experience that at a younger age.
Sorry, Heather, I just had to let the dogs out. They were barking.
I
Can you
understand.
repeat that one more time?
Sure. No, I was just saying, you have so many people who they discover a new career later in life. And so it seems like
Yeah.
it can eliminate that need, and students can, explore early and get their hands
Yeah.
dirty and try at a young age.
Yeah. A big thing that we emphasize to participants and our graduates is to not put pressure on yourself to figure out what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you're 18, 20, 22. Like, things are going to change. The opportunities
Yeah,
available on the market will change. Your interests are going to change. What you
exactly.
should be focused on early on is just one, like, go out and gain experience. You want to keep growing through professional experience, learn a little bit more valuable skills every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, and you're going to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I remember when I was, from the ages of really like 16 through like 21, I felt like I was in this like existential, like, crises of just like, what am I going to do with my life? It was a big stress point for me in my own life. And it was when I finally just realized, like, okay, I don't need to answer the question of what am I going to do, for the rest of my life, really, or, the next 20, 30 years. That's when I just started pursuing my interests, figuring out where I could go, where I could be valuable, that would offer me a valuable learning experience. And then kind of reassessing my options when I was 18, 19, it was reassessing my options every 6 months. Now that I'm, a little over 30, like, I have a clear plan of what I want to accomplish over the next 10 years. But if I tried to put together the 10-year plan at 18, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been very useful because, I just didn't have a lot of life or professional experience to go after.
And it sounds like praxis will give students confidence. And I think that's what is needed in this changing world. Like you said, we have
Yeah.
no idea where things are going to be 10, 20 years from now. So how can we even make a plan? And, I just think about the journey I went on. My degree that I have, is very helpful in home educating, but I never would have guessed at the time that that's what I would be using it for, or that
Yeah.
the internet. It's so funny. The internet wasn't even around when it happened right when I graduated high school. So I couldn't even have imagined what God had for me in 2022. So
Yep.
who knows what's going to happen 20 years from now? The technology is going to be so different. So just having the experience with an organization like Praxis, where you're just thinking outside the box and seeing what skills you have, then I just love the entrepreneurial aspect that it could go anywhere.
Yeah, we have a lot of participants. They'll come into the program and they'll have, some pretty strong opinions on what they think they want to do. And then while they go through the boot camp, they realize, like, oh, I'm actually, like, learning about opportunities I never even knew about before. I think I might be interested in them. And then they'll get started in something different than what they were expecting. And then 3 to 5 years later, as graduates, they'll be doing something, on the surface, very different from what they did during the program, but it was kind of those soft skills and that general experience and putting the pieces together over a longer period of time. And then in hindsight, you kind of look back and be like, oh, I can see how everything kind of led to me getting to the point I am in my career now and stuff. Like I was never expecting to go into, I was never expecting to go into like formal business world. I was never expecting to work on a college alternative. I was interested in, pursuing law or politics or, like sports management. But what I realized, like what I was really looking for is like, I want to work with, people that are interesting to me, that can challenge me. And I want to work on like a problem or opportunity that I really care about. And that was actually more important to know back then, of like the more general, like what am I looking for in terms of career values, rather than what the details would end up looking like, because the details always change.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love that. What do you see as one of the greatest challenges that students face when finding a career?
Yeah, I think the big one is how, like, don't approach your early career with the same mindset that makes you successful in school. Like in school, and
Mm,
this can apply to traditional school, it can also apply to, different kinds of, approaches to homeschooling. What makes you successful, what allows you to get good grades, is not necessarily going to be the thing that makes you successful, in the real world, in the business world, especially. Like you need to problem solve, you need to be creative, you need to, think for yourself and figure out, okay, I'm not just here to only do the job that, the specific definition of my role, but my job is like, when I'm working for a company, I'm here to make the company more valuable to their customers. I'm here to provide more value than what we take from them, essentially. And I think that's a big lesson. Just it's a huge mindset shift that I think a lot of people are not always ready to make, because they've been in the school system for so long. They're used to, working for a grade or working directly to the assignment, rather than, a little bit more of a creative problem solving area. And then I think a big one is just young people, they are not given a lot of context into what career paths are available, what opportunities are out there in the modern day career landscape. And I think that's something that does separate us from, going the typical college route. Is from day one, we have weekly workshops where we're putting in, successful professionals in front of you. We're interviewing them about how they've built their career over time, and, what they were doing, at 18, 20, 22, and how they got to where they are now. And, we're interviewing, business owners of different kinds of companies, and, they're telling the participants directly, like, hey, these are the kinds of, roles that are available for young professionals like yourselves. And this is what we look for. And these are, the common, pitfalls that you can fall into early on in your career. And here's how to avoid them. And I think that context is what kind of gets our participants really ready to, get their career started sooner than they were expecting. Because college is kind of framed as, hey, you need 4 to 5 years of this kind of, pre-career, preparation period on a campus, or, just kind of taking classes and everything. And, we want to get you started as soon as possible, because that's where the real learning begins.
sounds like that's where the need is too. It sounds like the companies that you are working with, they need people and they're looking for people to come to them right away. They're not waiting for them to go and get a college degree and come back, but they have positions open available now, right? So
Right.
they want them to come apply immediately.
Yeah, I think, it's actually a pretty big myth that you need to have that college degree in order to access a certain caliber level of job opportunity, of career opportunity. The companies we work with, companies that are 500 to 1,000 employees, kind of like smaller size corporations. We work with, really cool small businesses that could be only 10 to 15 employees, and everything in between. And actually, before I became CEO, I was running like our hiring partner network and recruiting companies to hire our candidates. And I probably have spoken with over 500 companies over the last 6, 7 years. I can recall one conversation that ended because the company was just like, sorry, we only hire, young professionals that have a 4-year college degree. Everyone
Wow.
else, their first question is they want to know, like, how do I know this person is going to be valuable? They want to know about the participant's background, and they want to know, like, how do we get them prepared for these jobs? And they're, companies, again, like whether it's a 10-person small business or 1,000 employee size, small corporation, they want people that can come in and be valuable. And if you can do the job, and if you can prove that you not only are you going to do the job, but you can continue growing with them, you're going to become, more valuable over time, then they want to give you a chance. And then it all becomes about how do you get in front of them and, get to that interview, get to that point where they're willing to give you an opportunity. And then, of course, that's what we're helping participants do in the program.
So one thing we forgot to touch on is where you're located. Is this virtually? Can anybody in the U.S. access your program, or is it a physical location?
Yeah, so the program itself, it's accessible. Like 98% of our participants are coming from all over the US. So you can do the program from anywhere in the US, and then we'll work with a handful of international participants every year as well. And then our companies are located all over the country too. And there's both in-person job opportunities as well as remote job opportunities available in our hiring network. So you have the option of, if you want to go out and get that, in-person experience, you're excited to move to a new city and have that different life experience, those opportunities are available to you. If maybe you want to stay at home or just stay where you're based already, we can help you find remote job opportunities, or even tap into some local areas depending on where they're located. And then all the programming that we're providing directly, that's all done remotely. So we have an online curriculum portal. You're going through that every week. You have 2 live workshops that are happening every week, and then you have advisor calls and stuff. So it's not like you're taking an online class and you're just showing up, for a lecture a few times a week, and then you have homework assignments every week. You have project work you're doing, and then you have more like interactive workshops that are helping you get through the program successfully.
Do you find that your students that do end up going to another location, do the companies tend to pay for their travel expenses, or is that something, since they're new entry level, they would have to cover that themselves?
It's case by case. So we tell participants, like, if you're interested in relocating, just like plan to budget for that. And we have really good resources in the curriculum on, like, a guide to relocation, how much you should be expecting to budget for a potential move, how to find, housing in a good area. And usually if you are relocating, you tend to be moving to a city where other, like, Praxis participants and graduates are already based. So you kind of
Oh,
have
wow.
an in-person social community there to help you get acquainted, rather than just like moving to a completely brand new city where you don't know anyone and you have to get adjusted. So that's a nice benefit. But yeah, most of the time you're probably paying for the relocation yourself. But some of our companies do offer, like, travel stipends and everything, relocation stipends.
Okay. I thought the parents might be wondering, so I had to
Yeah, yeah.
ask. Carolyn is wondering, what is the age range of students that you enroll?
It's typically that traditional college age range. So most of our participants fall into that, like, 18 to 22-year-old category. We're always open to working with slightly younger ages. They just have to, kind of, when we're talking about like 17-year-old applicants, maybe even 16-year-old applicants, we just want to make sure they have, like, the life maturity level that makes them ready to do well in the program. And sometimes we'll tell them, like, hey, we really like you, but just come back in a year and reapply, and show us, like, hey, you were able to go get a basic, like, teen job in your last year of homeschool experience, or something like that. And then we're always open to, and we do work with participants that are on the older end of that age range as well, so that are in their mid 20s, early 30s, and it makes sense for them to do Praxis. Like, we want to work with people that have the right level of ambition, really value what the curriculum that we provide and the kinds of opportunities that you can get through the program. But it's typically the 18 to 22-year-old, like traditional college age range.
So what would you recommend for the students that might be a little too young? How could they prepare if they know that Praxis is going to be in their near future?
Yeah, I have two big pieces of advice. The first one is go get real world professional experience. So go wait tables at a local restaurant, go get that retail customer service job, go barista at a coffee shop. I think anytime you can get real world experience where, hey, you're accountable to an employer, you're going to be accountable to customers that you're dealing with, like that gives you it's a huge learning experience if you can be working at an early age. I really see, not just within the context of Praxis, but 18, 20, 22-year-olds who haven't gotten a lot of job experience before they've become focused on like getting their longer term careers off the ground. I think they're really working at a disadvantage. Some of our best participants are the ones that at 14, 15, 16 they were starting to work, and that can be
Right.
more formal job experience, or we always love to see things like the kid who was mowing lawns in their neighborhood for over the summer for some
Yeah.
spending money and stuff. I think that's a really cool experience to get. And then my other thing is we like to see people that are really like they take a more self-directed approach to their own education. So if someone does go to like a more traditional K through 12 school, maybe they're reading or blogging or running like a YouTube channel on the side on something
Mhm.
that's they're really personally passionate about. And then the
Right.
same thing applies for homeschoolers. Like the more you're providing evidence of, hey, I have things in my life that I am personally taking initiative on. I'm not just doing what my teachers or my school system tells me to do, or exactly what my parents do. Like I'm taking control, I'm taking initiative, and that can show up in a lot of different ways. But why I say that's important is because once you're getting your career and life started, like ultimately it's your responsibility. We
Mhm.
can't tell you exactly what to do after the program and everything. You're going to have to figure out a lot for yourself, and the earlier the younger you are and you're starting to do that already, I think that's really valuable, no matter if you do Praxis or go to college, like just in terms of kind of setting yourself up for general life success and everything. Like the more you can take initiative and you're choosing how you're spending your time and everything, I think is really important.
Wow, I love that. So you have given us so much advice for our students and for parents, but do you have any more advice? One last piece of advice for students? If you have something, can you share that before we sign off?
Yeah, I would say, we talked about this earlier. It's like, don't put pressure on yourself to figure out what you're going to do, over the long term, whether that's, you feel pressure of like how I'm going to spend my 20s, or, what I'm going to do for my career for the next 30, 40 years. Like just take it one step at a time. And I would say, instead of taking that more traditional approach of, hey, I'm going to college, or I'm, choosing to do a specific program because I think this is the exact career path I want for myself. Um, Kind of be in like experimental mode. Like take it 6 months to a year at a time. What can you do for 6 months that would help you gain clarity on what you think you're interested in? I think it's more important to figure out what you don't like to do more than it is to like feel like you're finding and discovering your dream job. If you can kind of set yourself a target of, hey, I want to spend the first 5 to 10 years of my like adult life, and over within 5 years or within 10 years, I want to feel like, okay, I know, like I've gained clarity and I feel like I'm set up for the long term now. I think that's a much better approach than feeling like at 18 I have to write the perfect plan for my entire life right now.
That is wonderful advice. Well, for those watching, where can parents or students go to learn more about Praxis today?
discoverpraxis.com. So that's our website. And on the website, you can download our program guide. You can sign up for on our email list, so you're getting more information and updates about the program. You can schedule a call with an admissions advisor just to kind of answer, more specific questions that you might have, figuring out if the program could be a fit for you. So discoverpraxis.com, that will kind of give you all the resources you need.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Cameron. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will see you next time on another Homeschool Live.
Thanks, Heather.